Problem is that Donald Trump told us that he had the money. In April, he was in a deposition for this case, and he said, developers usually don't have cash. They have assets, not cash. I have over 400, fairly substantially over 400 million. That's just cash. That's just cash. So when was Donald Trump lying? Because he was either lying today or he was lying then.
Well, he has 400 million.
No.
I'll play the rest of that clip for you in just a second. It gets more interesting with Jeanine Pirro and Jesse Waters jumping in and trying to prevent Jessica Tarlov, as they often do, from making the correct point that she's making. Then Jeanine Pirro just sort of goes off the rails and actually brings up something that we'll use as a jumping off point for an important discussion that'll be interesting. But before we get to that, there, of course, the context is the panel was responding to the news that Trump's lawyers had to admit that they've been unable to find an insurance company willing to underwrite the bond to cover the judgment against Trump, of course, relating to the fraud case and this massive hundreds of millions of dollars that he's on the hook for because of that judgment increasing every single day. And shortly before the clip that I just played for you, Jessica Tarlov made the point that there's nothing wrong, even for a billionaire, with not having hundreds of millions of dollars of cash on hand. So that's not really the most important takeaway. Oh, look, he doesn't have hundreds of millions of dollars just sitting around. You want to invest it, make it work for you, great. It's that he specifically, in a deposition in this case, said that he had more than $400 million. And so as she pointed out, he was either lying in that deposition or he's lying now. And that's definitely something that's very notable. And I have much more to say, lots to discuss after playing the rest. Here it is.
100 million in cash. He just doesn't
have
have 454.
He said, I have substantially more than that. And you're telling me that the $54 million is the problem here? It's not. The issue is that we have no idea what's actually going on with these properties, how many mortgages he has out. That many companies don't say no to you unless there's something wrong with your assets.
That's not
true.
And
Mark Levin went on Twitter last night saying, why are there no Republican multi-billionaires offering to lend Trump the funds? Because the man is a credit risk, because the man lies about all of these things, and that's how he got into this level of trouble, and because he's going to be tied up in court.
He doesn't have a sugar brother like the Hunter Biden does.
Judge, there's never
been a bond this high in the history of the United States.
This is time to talk about how Joe Biden lies, because that's how Jessica would answer this question.
Well, Jessica
Look,
just answered
here's the bottom line. It's more than $454 million. It's 120% of that. That is almost $500 million in cash.
Check my math, but isn't 450 million already nearly $500 million?
Me a break, and I'll tell you why they don't want to take a risk and give them that money. The reason they don't want to take a risk and do that is because this market, this real estate market in New York, is very, very vulnerable.
I want you to guess right now what it is that Jeanine Pirro is going to bring up next, okay? Think about what she loves and what Fox News loves, fear-mongering about the most. And if you guess two, I promise both of them will be included in this. I don't promise you. I think you'll guess it if you watch enough Fox News. Okay, here we go. Somehow she's able to yank the conversation in the direction of this.
Nobody knows what the valuations are worth anymore. New York is now a crime-ridden city. There is crime all over, immigrants all over. They're about to go bankrupt because of the immigrants in the hotels and all the areas of New York City. And there's another reason. Not only is New York unstable because of the Democrats who've literally destroyed this city.
Okay, crime and migrants. Somehow she's talking about New York's crime and migrants. Now, we got to go through this again because she brought it up. We got to address the crime talking point. It's their favorite. New York, crime, it's so horrible. You can't even live here without being attacked. Is there crime in New York? Absolutely. Should it be addressed? Absolutely. But let's contextualize it, all right? Let's just pick randomly Oklahoma City, for example, okay? A red city in a red state. Violent and property crime, higher crime rates in Oklahoma City compared to New York. Or you might remember this back and forth or this situation on X that garnered a lot of attention. Tommy Tuberville, the Republican senator from Alabama, wrote, "Hope Joe Biden enjoyed going out for ice cream in New York City while the rest of the city is afraid of crime and migrants." See, he even said it the exact same way I was phrasing it. And Mediaite, along with many other people in the comments, had to fact check this, saying New York City's homicide rate is 4.8 per 100,000 people. Alabama, the home state of Senator Tuberville, has a homicide rate 3 times higher. 15.9 per 100,000 people. 15.3 times higher. But Jeanine Pirro's telling me it's New York that has the crisis. I never hear a thing about Alabama's crime rate from Fox News. It's so strange. As I say so often, it's almost like we're not dealing with honest people. Now, I'll also remind you of the 2020 study that found crime, or let me specify, homicide rates were 40% higher in red states that voted for Donald Trump compared to blue states that voted for Joe Biden. Or you might remember Jim Jordan, the Republican congressman, did this whole stunt talking about crime in New York, and then that prompted people to look into his district, and his district in Ohio has higher violent crime rates than that of New York cities. Now, again, what do we want to do about it? We still want to address it everywhere and try to minimize crime everywhere, of course. Now, it's important to call out dishonesty when we see it, and them focusing on New York when its crime rate is a heck of a lot lower than many of the places that are represented by politicians that they want to criticize. That is important to call out. But regardless, in a sense, crime is always too high because we would want no crime, right? And so then it's, how do we do this? Yes, locally, statewide, but don't we want nationally the crime rate to be going down? And that's where I have some wonderful news for you. Clearly, the person she dislikes the most and the party she dislikes the most, Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, are doing something correct in their governance, because crime just keeps dropping under Joe Biden. Take a look at this.
Steve, is it true?
Well, no, crime is not out of control like it's ever been before. And in fact, crime is actually continuing to drop under President Biden. So let's take a look at violent crime. This is per 100,000 people in relationship to our size of our population. And you can see that violent crime actually since 2020 has dropped by 15%, 339 violent crimes per 100,000 people. It's below any place it was during the Trump administration, and it's had this huge drop in 2023. The same is basically true of property crime. You can see here, this is people robbing homes and things of that like. Down 7%, 1,830 per 100,000 people. So this is a complete fiction that crime is up under the Biden administration.
Yeah, and at the same time.
Now, I already showed this to you all in a previous segment where, for those of you who saw the segment, I had an editing mistake and left in an outtake. So that was special for you all to experience. But setting that aside, I'm going to play a little bit more of this. It's not on the topic of crime, but really interesting as we looked at. But isn't that fascinating? Crime just keeps dropping under Joe Biden. Violent crime every single year under him has gone down, is currently lower than it was any time under Trump. And Trump didn't get handed an economic, social, and public health crisis. Biden did at the beginning of his presidency. And still, we are here now. But Fox News is pushing the idea that the Democratic policies in Joe Biden somehow, but definitely, in these blue cities and states, things are just going to hell. Just doesn't seem to be exactly aligned with the truth. Here's another talking point that we hear constantly from the right that is very wrong and is fact checked here.
There are different areas of the country experiencing different things, and a mixture of crime and homelessness is very personal to people in their neighborhoods. But again, you can't deny the data and the trends that we're seeing. There's also Donald Trump's false claims when it comes to President Biden's energy policy. Listen to this.
On day one of our new administration, we will end Biden's nation-wrecking war on American energy. He's wrecking the energy business.
Okay, Steve Ratner, again, what are the facts?
Yeah, I mean, wrecking the energy business. So we have had record energy production under the Biden administration. This combines nuclear, fossil fuels, and renewables. And you can see here that we have never had energy production this high. And then the other thing that he says is that he's going to make us energy independent again. Well, the fact is we are energy independent. We've been energy independent now for 5 years. And in fact, our energy exports, mostly oil, but also some natural gas, hit a record last year. So in fact, America we produced more oil than any country in the world has ever produced in history.
So, what? If you have to watch as much right-wing media as I do for this particular profession in prepping for the show, then you know that crime going up under Joe Biden and energy production being crushed and oil production being crushed under Joe Biden, two of their favorite talking points. And they're just completely fabricating the situation. Because what we should be doing is going, yes, what are governments doing locally, statewide, in places that we're seeing more significant drops? But also, what Jeanine Pirro should spend the rest of her time doing, if she really cares about crime, is figuring out what is it about Joe Biden's policies that could be causing this. Now, of course, crime is such a complicated issue and phenomenon, and thus the reasons why it decreases so vast and complicated. It's not just Joe Biden, and lots of credit does go to the work being done locally. But if it's all Biden's fault when they pretend like there's a spike, then they should definitely give him credit when there's actually a significant decrease. I'll leave it there for this segment. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the alert bell and the like button, and I'll talk to you next time.